Okay, so a lot of guys you ask me about how I edited my latest post on my Instagram. So here is the tutorial how I edited it in my Photoshop. So this is the raw image which I captured on my DSLR. As this is the raw image, when you open it with Photoshop, it opens in camera raw. So I have made just a little bit of adjustment here, like increasing temperature and all that settings. It's just minimal, so I have not made much changes in the image, as I would like to show you the before image. So this is the before image and this is the after image. I have made a minimal changes in the image, and after this I am okay with it, so I'll press OK. So after I am okay with this image, this will open in Photoshop. Next thing we are going to do is we are going to remove the blemishes from the skin. So for that I'm going to create a new layer because I don't want to damage my original image. So after I create my new layer, I'll rename it as blemishes. If you don't want to rename it, it's okay, but it just helps you to understand when you have got a hell lot of layers in Photoshop. So make sure you rename it for your simplicity, and after you select it, go into healing tool and select the healing brush tool, which is the general tool. After you select it, just go down here and make sure you have selected here current and below. So take the sample. For taking sample, you press Alt and click left, take the sample, paint over the blemish, again press Alt, take sample, again go to the another place, find all the blemishes and just take sample and color it. One pro tip I would like to give you, just go here in the adjustment layer and add black and white layer. After you add that, just decrease down the reds until you see the blemishes clearly. Just increase the yellow a bit, little bit, increase blues all the way to up 300, and now you can see, you can just clearly see the blemishes more clearly. So again select the blemishes panel, make sure it's current and below, again start taking sample, color over the blemish, again take sample, color over the blemish. Similar process you have to continue until all the blemishes are gone. So I'm going to make this video faster here for you guys to understand what I have done with the blemishes removal. So have a look.
Check. The grills in my mouth double as a breeze. The grills in my mouth double as a breeze. The grills in my mouth double as a breeze. The grills in my mouth double as a
Okay, so guys, this is it after I remove all the blemishes. So now we can hide the black and white layer because we don't need it, so I will delete it. So as you can see, I have removed all the blemishes. So let me show you how it looked like before removing the blemishes. So this is what it looked like before removing the blemishes, and this is after I removed all the blemishes. Make sure you take all your time and remove the blemishes slowly and subtly, because it is a time consuming process, but after all it's worth it, because you remove all the blemishes and pimples or whatever you call it, you remove all them out from your image. So this is what it looks like. So I'll show you how this looks like. So these are the areas from where we remove the blemishes. So after you do this, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to create a merge layer of this. So for that we are going to press Ctrl Alt Shift E, and if you are using on Mac, so press Command Option Shift E. So this is going to create a merge layer for you. Now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to use the frequency separation technique. Now a lot of you will ask, like, what is the frequency separation technique? So the frequency separation technique is basically the technique in which you separate the higher frequency from the lower frequency. The higher frequency will contain the texture of your skin, while the lower frequency contains the color of your skin. So we want to separate this, as we are going to smoothen the skin. We don't want to lose the texture of your skin, which is the use of this technique. Now again you will ask me, what if we don't use this technique? So my answer to this question will be, if we don't use this technique, we will end up with the flattened skin without leaving any texture on the skin, which will be just like the image when you capture your selfie with your mobile phone in a beauty mode. And we don't want that to happen here, as we want the texture to be intact without losing the details of our skin, but we also want the clean and smooth skin without losing the texture. So this is the advantage of using this technique. So for that we are going to create one more duplicate layer of this merged layer. So for that press Ctrl J, Command J. We will rename this layer as color, and above layer as texture. Now the next thing we are going to do is disable this texture layer and select the color layer. Then go to the filters, blur, Gaussian blur, and decrease the value all the way down to the 1, and sample at the point where you see the texture on your skin. So I think here I see the texture of my skin, and then increase the radius to the point until you lose the complete details of the skin, like I see. I think 9 will be the best value for this, where I lose all the details and it is just flattened out. So make sure you check that value. The value will be close around 7 to 9. Just find out that for your image and press OK. So after you are done with the color layer, we are going to go to texture layer. Now when we turn on this texture layer, we see the whole image as a earlier image without applying this frequency separation. Now once you have the texture layer turned on, what we are going to do next is we are going to subtract the color layer from the texture layer, because we don't want the color on the texture layer as we have the separate color layer. So for that we are going to go in the image panel, select apply image, and then select layer as color. Channel RGB is fine, and of course blending mode will be subtract, as we want to subtract the color layer from the texture layer, and the values of scale and offset as 2 and 128. The reason behind these values is different science, which I'll tell you or explain you some another day in different video. But for now, just keep it as it is and press OK, and change the blending mode from normal to linear light. Now you see the image as it was before. So now let's make a group of these both layers. So for that press Ctrl and select these two layers and make a group of these two layers. For that press Ctrl G or Command G on if you are on Mac. And the next thing we see is we have the group of these both layers, and when we turn off this group we don't see any change. When we turn on this group we also don't see any change. So this tells us that we have completely separated the texture and color. That is, when we turn on both layers we see the complete image like texture as well as color, but when I turn off the texture layer I see only color. So that's the advantage, and we have successfully separated the texture and color layer. Now here comes the most interesting part of this video. We are going to create a brand new skin. So for that process we are going to create a new layer. Now this is not the actual process, I am just showing it for the demonstration purpose. The actual process is different, which we are going to see later. But just for now I have created this layer, Then I'll select the brush. I'll make the flow to 100% just for your understanding, and take the sample from the skin and just paint over the skin of that part. Similarly, I am going to take another sample, paint over it. Again take the another sample and paint over it. Take another sample and paint over it. Similarly, I am going to paint all over the areas, just like this, as a painter does. So this is the way that we are going to do and actually paint our skin. So this is the way we are going to paint the skin. Now can you see here the dark patch, which we don't want actually? So instead of doing like this, we are going to paint like this. Instead of doing like this, we directly remove this part and paint the skin like this, so that we don't have that blemish, or whatever you call it, eye bag or whatever you call it. So in this way we are going to sculpt our skin like a sculptor or painter does. Now I know this looks a bit of weird thing, but we are going to do it in a proper manner. So for now I'm deleting this layer, and let's create the proper method. So select the layer of color and then create a new layer, and then again make the flow as 1% or 2%, which is most preferable, so that you don't get very heavy handed flow on the skin. And just take the sample again and paint over that skin. So this is the process of creating such smooth. Now you can see we are not losing the texture of the skin, as we are doing it below the texture layer but above the color layer, so we are not losing the texture of the skin. So in the same manner, just keep on sampling, which is the pro tip. Just keep on taking multiple samples and keep on painting. So this is the process of creating smooth skin without losing the texture. So I will fast forward this process, as you can see this in a bit of fast speed. One pro tip again I would like to give you here is, when you are sculpting the skin, make sure you uncheck the texture, as sometimes texture may be distracting. And just don't go too close, like when you will take the sample and you will paint, and when you zoom out it will look a little of different thing and it will look shabby. So make sure you don't go too close, just like this, and then take samples from here and just paint here. So this is the way of creating brand new skin. So here it's after I turn on this texture. Here is the before, here is the after. So this is what you see after we have made a brand new skin. If you don't want this much amount, you can always go here and decrease the opacity. So I think 72 will be good. So I just click here Okay, so once you are done with this, just let's collapse this group and let's add more depth to this portrait. So for that, go here in the adjustment panel and create the curves layer and just drop these to this point. It seems good, and just collapse it. So we don't want this to apply all over the image, so just invert this mask. For that, Ctrl I and you will get the inverted mask, and then just press B or select the brush from here and make sure you have the flow 1 or 2%. I prefer 1%, and then just paint over these areas which you would like to bring forward and create the depth to the portrait. So I'm just painting here very light-handed. Now here comes one more pro tip. Now if you don't want to paint over the light area, which is the highlight area, just add here the if condition. So for that, click here 2 times on the right side of the layer. Then you will see here the underlying layer, which is like this. Just drag it here. Now see, when you drag it here, it completely vanishes. So slightly increase, keep on increasing, keep on increasing. Now see, but it is very harsh, so we want it soft. So for that, press Alt and click on this slider, which will split it into 2 parts, and then just slightly move them apart so it looks more subtle. So that's the way of creating. Now if you have a 2-sided face, you will have to create one more curves layer and again create the same mask and create the same process following the same steps, and you will get the more precise depth to the image. So this is without the depth, and this is after we add the dodging to this image, so it looks more depth. So this is it with the video, guys. Hope you liked and enjoyed the video and learned something from this video. If you would like to learn about how to add depth to the eyes and create more realistic eyes like I posted on my Instagram, you can check that too. So let me know in the comment section. I will definitely make the video on that topic too. And thank you if you are watching the video till now. Thank you for watching it.